For the second consecutive season, a Marlins free agent signing will not finish that season with the team. Last year, it was Tim Anderson. This year, it's Cal Quantrill.
You are Locked On Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into Locked On Marlins. I'm your host, Jeremiah Geiger. I'm a diehard Marlins fan, and I've podcasted about the team for the last 4 seasons. You can find me on X at Jeremiah Geiger 2, and thank you for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, which is your team every day. Don't forget to hit subscribe on the YouTube channel, and let me know your thoughts in the comments section. Today's episode is brought to you by Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. And on today's show, I'm going to discuss the news that Cal Quantrill has been placed on outright waivers, who fills his spot in the rotation, also discuss yesterday's outing with Edward Cabrera. Don't stress about it. It's an anomaly. There was a lot of bad luck involved. I expect him to be much better to finish out the year. And finally, some more unfortunate injury news for the Fish. Anthony Bender, a key piece in the bullpen, is out for the season. We're going to talk about that and how it affects the team moving forward. But let's start with Cal Quantrill. Quantrill was brought in the offseason on a 1-year deal, a prove-it deal, $3.5 million, very cheap. And right off the bat, he struggled. You know, the month of April was really rough for him. There was some talk about potentially, his spot in the rotation. It was so bad that there was going to have to be an answer from somewhere else, that you couldn't pitch Quantrill the rest of the way. But he settled down. He settled into a groove. The month of July was very solid. And around the trade deadline, it was pretty clear that given Quantrill was on an expiring contract, if the Marlins could move him, they would. But there were no suitors for Cal Quantrill. Nobody wanted him because he just hadn't he wasn't pitching like an ace. Routinely this season, Quantrill would go 5 innings max and immediately get pulled. Or if Clayton McCullough did leave him for a third time through the order, that's where everything went downhill from that moment. There was no reliability for Cal Quantrill to eat innings and pitch deep into games. So maybe that had a factor that factored into other teams' plans around the trade deadline. I was surprised that they couldn't get anything for Quantrill, but given the spot that the team was at, hovering about around 500, and that he had a really good month of July and had settled into a groove, it seems like keeping Quantrill on the team made sense. He could give this team some valuable innings down the stretch, and who knows, if Quantrill pitched well and the Marlins continued playing well, then maybe this team would make a playoff run. But there just wasn't a market for him at the deadline. Unfortunately for Cal Quantrill and the rest of the Marlins team, it's been anything but successful after the deadline. You had the Yankees series right after. You swept the Yankees, but you haven't won a series since. You lost the series to the Astros. 4 out of 5 to the Braves, the Guardians, the Red Sox, now the Cardinals. This team has fallen out of contention. And with the team falling out of contention, a big part of that has been the pitching staff. And one of the main pieces of this pitching staff that has struggled post-deadline has been the aforementioned Cal Quantrill. In the 3 starts post-deadline, he didn't pitch in the Yankees series. 4 1/3 innings against the Astros, 9 hits, 7 earned runs. 4 innings against the Braves, 3 hits, 1 earned run. 3 2/3 innings against the Boston Red Sox in their most recent road trip. 8 hits, 7 earned runs again. If you look at this from just the month of August compared to the month of July, Month of July, in 5 starts, he had an ERA of 2.92 across 24 and 2/3 innings. Month of August, 3 starts, 11.25 ERA. It was getting worse. It was atrocious. He was losing this team the game before the team got settled in and even realized, what was happening. They woke up in the morning, they drink a cup of coffee, head to the ballpark, and they're immediately down 7-0. Two out of the 3 starts Quantrill was pitching. That can't happen. And he's on an expiring deal. There's no reason to keep him in the rotation if A, you're out of playoff contention, and or B, he's just pitching ineffectively. The immediate call-up was Cade Gibson. Cade Gibson is, a left-handed reliever. He made his major league debut, but who's going to fill Cal Quantrill's spot in the rotation? I wanted it to be Robbie Snelling because I believed that Snelling is major league ready. I still believe that. The most obvious answer is Ryan Gusto. And Gusto made a spot start in the doubleheader against the Braves when they went on that horrific road trip, and we all know how that went. And Gusto was impressive to me. I really liked his stuff. He's got a really good fastball. It's going to get whiffs. It's got good carry. He got 8 strikeouts in that one. His most recent start in the minors, it didn't turn out so well. He struggled in it. But I like the opportunity to give Gusto a shot at the major leagues. Does that mean we see Robbie Snelling this season at all? I don't know. You could look at it as maybe he's a September call-up. Maybe the Marlins just continue playing it safe with him and get him more experience in AAA. And then in spring training in the Grapefruit League 2026, that's where Robbie Snelling shows up and wins a rotation spot right off the bat. But you have to think, Ryan Weathers could be coming back. You have Ryan Gusto, who's major league ready as well. He started 14 games for Houston. There's a lot of moving pieces for the Marlins. Snelling's the guy that hasn't had his major league debut. We do see this team call up prospects. This season has been a season in which the Marlins organization calls up these young guys. Augustine Ramirez, MLB debut. Jacob Marcy, MLB debut. You have Max Acosta. And although he's not exactly, kicking off his career with a bang, he's still getting an opportunity at the major league level. So I'm curious to see as to how the Marlins handle Robbie Snelling from this point moving forward, because the opening is there. It just depends on how they want to handle it. Is it Ryan Gusto's spot the rest of the way? Is there going to be another spot that opens up later on? We're going to see. But it's time to wish goodbye to Cal Quantrill, another free agent in which it didn't work out. The Marlins have really signed 3 free agents. You have Tim Anderson in 2024, Cal Quantrill in 2025, Eric Wagaman, who was signed to a split contract, so it could be majors or minor leagues. I'm not really going to count him, but the 2 veteran signings, I'll put it that way, the 2 veterans who had a good deal of major league experience in Tim Anderson and Cal Quantrill, both of whom have not worked out. And that's one of the downturns of this season, or the last couple seasons, is no spending in free agency, and then the 2 free agents they do spend money on have been duds. So if the Marlins want to supplement the core with free agents, they're going to need to do better. They're going to need to open up the pocketbooks a little bit more. But that's a conversation for a different time and a different place. Right now, we got to focus on the season. Cal Quantrill's gone. Bad signing. We get it. Edward Cabrera had a rough start against the St. Louis Cardinals, but I'm here to tell you not to worry. that it's going to normalize, and the Edward Cabrera we saw pitch against the Braves with 8 innings and 11 strikeouts, that's more like the Edward Cabrera I'm expecting to see the rest of the way. I'm going to tell you why right after this. Have you ever decided at the last minute to head to a ball game with friends or family? Maybe it's game day and you suddenly realize you want to be in the stands. That's exactly where Gametime comes in. It's the easiest way to grab last minute tickets without the stress. With the money you save on tickets, you can splurge on food, drinks, Marlins merchandise, or maybe invite a bigger group to come out with you. Gametime makes that all possible. Gametime is fast and simple, and the prices on the app actually drop the closer you get to first pitch. And they've got all-in pricing. This is my favorite part of Gametime because Gametime is my go-to when I want to go see a game. When you click on the ticket you want to buy and you see the price tag next to it, that's exactly what you're going to pay at checkout. There's no hidden fees, all-in pricing. It's an awesome feature. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. I appreciate all the everyday listeners making Locked On Marlins a part of your daily routine. Edward Cabrera got the start on Tuesday for the Fish. And against a lineup like the Cardinals, I expected some big things from him, and it was not the case. His final line, 4 1/3, 11 hits, 6 runs, 4 earned, 1 walk, 6 strikeouts. He had a wild pitch, and Agustin Ramirez didn't really help him out as well. He had another pass ball. Augustine has now 12 pass balls on the season. A forgettable outing for Edward Cabrera, but I'm not worried. I don't look at this one specific start and say the old Eddie has returned. It's not what I expected, but there was an element of luck to it, and I'm going to explain why. On the night, Edward Cabrera, his BABIP against him, so the batting average on balls in play was 611. He, like, anytime the Cardinals put the ball in play, it was more likely they were going to get a hit than not. He was still getting whiffs. On the night, he got 17 whiffs, so he still had his swing and miss stuff. I saw something on Twitter from one of the accounts that do pitch stuff grades that his was like the 3rd or 4th best of the night. His stuff was still very solid. The called strike plus whiff percentage was a very tidy 32%. You're going to take that. He was hitting it. He was hitting the zone. He only had the 1 walk. And most importantly, he wasn't getting hit hard. So if I look at the sinker, changeup, and curveball, so the average exit velocities for those pitches, the sinker, you had 8 balls in play. The average EV, 92.2 miles an hour. The changeup, average 78. The curveball, 79.8. He only had 1 ball in play hit against him on the slider, which is still an elite pitch. And that was at 97.8%. Or 97.8 miles per hour, rather. So, all in all, the average EV against him, the average exit velocity when the Cardinals were getting these base hits, and they got 11 of them. In total, 86.4 miles per hour. Everything was soft contact. That is not a cause for concern. That's just one of those situations in which you say, it's not my night. I didn't get any help from Agustin Ramirez, who is an absolute disaster of a catcher. I can't keep saying this enough. What they're doing is malpractice. And when that happens, you have runners on. Augustine, pass ball after pass ball, throwing error here. It's going to create, frustration. And Cabrera, I'm not stressed about it. It was an unlucky night. And sometimes that happens to the best of them. You're going to see an ace one day just not have his best stuff. On my fantasy team, I have Logan Gilbert for the Seattle Mariners. And we're almost to the playoffs. I'm the number 1 seed, by the way. I'm 19-1. I just lost I started off 19-0. But anyway, Cabrera, they were playing the Phillies, or not Cabrera, Logan Gilbert. The Mariners, it was Logan Gilbert versus Ranger Suarez, and Gilbert got blown up. It was like 2 innings, 9 hits, 6 runs, something like that. Sometimes these games happen. But moving forward, I don't expect this to be the standard. What I've seen from Edward Cabrera this season is legit. And it's a breakout that everybody can buy in and be invested in moving forward. He's had a couple of starts. The one in Cleveland, yeah, it wasn't the best. He had this one against the Cardinals. Yeah, it's not the best. You know what? It's a long season. He's surpassed 100 innings for the first time in his career. Maybe he's getting a little bit tired. The stuff is still there. Most importantly, the location is still there. He's not out there walking everybody like he used to, which was the big issue. Before, yeah, Cabrera, he would go out there, he still has his stuff, but he's walking 4 or 5 guys a game. He got hit hard. It is what it is. You got to learn from it, put it behind you, and move forward. He's still a viable piece in this bullpen. He's still the ace alongside Yuri Perez. And I'm pumped about 2026. Look, the Marlins record right now, 57-69, or 59-67 rather. So 8 games under 500. You have a month and about 10 days left of this season. Enjoy it. Watch the games. The wins and losses, that they're fading. That a rough August is doing this team in. And it's frustrating. But don't overreact. Don't look at these last couple of weeks and just say it was all for naught. We're seeing good progress here. And there's a reason that Peter Bendix and company did not trade Edward Cabrera at the deadline. So what if he has a couple of bumps in the road? He's still a pitcher that I believe has ace qualities about him and is going to frontline this rotation in 2026. Of course, that assumes that the Marlins don't trade him in the offseason. And I'm sure we're gonna have plenty of discussions on, winter meetings and trade rumors with him in December. But right now, just keep playing baseball. You have an opportunity today to go out and win or salvage a game. You're not going to win the series, but you can salvage at least one game. It's Sandy Alcantara versus his former team. Sandy's coming off of a really good start against the Red Sox. Can he put another one together back to back and start building up this momentum for the rest of the season? That's what I'm going to be looking for. Now, he's going to have to do it without a key piece in the bullpen. Clayton McCullough and the Marlins are down a big-time reliever. Anthony Bender is now out for the season. Really disappointing news. The Marlins are going to have to piece it together somehow the rest of this way. This team is getting snake bitten with injuries. More about Bender and the bullpen right after this. If you're watching on the YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button, of course. But remember that Locked On Marlins is on all the major podcast platforms. You can listen to the show wherever you are. Unfortunately for the Marlins, there was some bad news that came out. After yesterday's game, Isaac Azut tweeted out, Clayton McCullough confirmed that Anthony Bender is out for the season with a right tibial stress reaction. That's the injury. So, unexpected. It's a big blow to the bullpen. A bullpen which you could argue is running out of steam. You can only rely on certain guys the rest of the way. They just don't have the talent in the bullpen. Ronnie Enriquez, I've outlined how they misused him, how he just didn't pitch in the road trip 1 2/3 innings. That can't happen. So maybe they're being extra cautious with him. With Bender, it's a huge blow because he's the veteran of the group. He's the guy that that was kind of the glue of the bullpen, and he was having a very, very solid season, but now he's out for the year. On the season, Bender had 50 innings in 51 games, an ERA of 2.16, 42 strikeouts, and a whip of a very solid 1.06. He was having a career year in a lot of ways. That definitely was a season low in ERA. So he posted his best ERA of his career. He was 11 and a third innings away from tying the most amount of innings he's pitched in the season. The Marlins are without him, and now the high leverage guys I trust in this pen, Lake Bacher is going to get his shot. Ronnie Enriquez, maybe Calvin Fauché. I guess by default it has to be Calvin Fauché, even though he's been inconsistent. Who else do you have left? Josh Simpson isn't a guy you want to rely on in the ninth inning. We've talked about that. But yeah, it's Fauché, it's Enriquez. You have Tyler Phillips up there. But the rest of these guys behind them, Tyler Zuber, Josh Simpson, Cade Gibson, Valente Beozo. This bullpen is patchwork right now. They're patching it together for the stretch run. And it is what it is. It's tough. Baseball's a long season. These injuries are going to happen. But Anthony Bender was one of those guys that you could rely on to give you innings. He pitched 50 innings this season. Now he's done. So you're going to see guys get more opportunities. I know I've criticized the way that Clayton McCullough operates with the bullpen and the situations he puts them into. Well, now there's the counter argument to that. Really, who else do you have? If Enriquez, Bacher, and Fauché, maybe Phillips. I'd like to see Phillips get used a little bit more. If those four guys, you can't go through a week only using those four, who are you going to use? You're going to have to see Tyler Zuber. You're going to have to see Cade Gibson being the lone lefty the second lefty in the pen. Josh Simpson's the other guy. So this Marlins team, yeah, they got hit really hard in the month of August with injuries. Offensively, Graham Pauley. You have him go down. You have Kyle Stowers go down. Connor Norby is starting a rehab assignment. And I wanted to just kind of briefly touch on the Connor Norby and Graham Pauley conversation at third base. I think Graham Pauley has done enough to, when he comes back off the injured list, and hopefully that's soon, he gets the reps at third. Now, Connor Norby is starting a rehab assignment today with the Jacksonville Jumbo Shrimp, so he's very close to being back. Maybe he returns to the Major League roster before Pauley does, and then you're going to see Norby play third. But the confidence I have in Graham Pauley moving forward is higher than what I have in Connor Norby. Very underwhelming season from Norby. There's a lot of name value attached to him because he was the headliner of the Trevor Rogers trade. It wasn't Kyle Stowers. And last season, Norby outpaced Stowers in production. But this year's been disappointing. He's dealt with injuries. Graham Pauley has shown flashes of being a very solid player, especially on the defensive side. So nothing is given, everything is earned, especially when it comes to this team. And for Norby, that's going to resonate at third base. If both are healthy, and I know it's an unfortunate circumstance because if Norby returns and Pauley's still out, then the easy answer is have Norby at third base. But that doesn't answer the long-term question. And maybe that means we're just going to have a battle, a good old competition in spring training down in Florida in March. Who's the best option at third base? Because, yeah, Norby has the better name, coming over. He was the headliner in the big trade last year. But production matters. Defense matters with this team. We understand how important that is. And Paulie gives this team a better floor when it comes to the glove. He's a wall at third base. And we saw the bat start to heat up. Norby didn't really have anything going for him this season. The bat was weak and the glove's been weak. I know it's a new position, but when you get your opportunity, you got to capitalize. And Paulie capitalized. Unfortunately, he's on the injured list. So long term, when it comes to Graham Paulie and Norby, I think we're going to see a competition in third base. May the best man win. Regardless, though, I do believe there's a role for Connor Norby on this team, even if it's not at third base, which I don't think it should be. The bullpen. Frustrating that Bender's out. That's still frustrating. I'm looking at the roster now. It doesn't spark a lot of confidence in me. It really doesn't. I guess Tyler Phillips, maybe you start seeing him get more opportunities in high leverage spots. I know he had a real great month of July in which he pitched to an ERA of 0.59. Only pitched in five games this month, although 3 of them have been scoreless, including a 2-inning outing against the Guardians. So I'd like to see some more Tyler Phillips kind of replace Anthony Bender in the high leverage role, if you will. But yeah, this team's getting hit with the injury bug. Got a month and a half, August 20th as we're recording this one. You're wrapping up the series against the Cardinals, and then you stay home. You have the Toronto Blue Jays come into town. They're a really good team. You're going to want to avoid, what would that be, a 6th straight series loss. Play with your hair on fire. And stop with the mental errors. The mental errors, that has to be addressed in the clubhouse. That's a player thing. That's a coach to player thing. I understand we're late in the season. It's the dog days of summer, as they say. But you control your attitude. You control your effort. You have to make the basic plays. You have to put in the effort required every single day in order to make those basic plays. Sloppiness, laziness on this team should not be tolerated. The rest of the way, it should be about hard work. What is each player doing on a daily basis to get better? And that's what it's got to be. 59 and 67, 8 games under. It's going to be hard to climb out of this hole that they dug themselves. Unfortunately, they started playing baseball. They started playing their worst baseball at the most inopportune time. And sometimes it happens like that. Show up every day. Don't continue letting this snowball and this create an avalanche where you win 5 games in September or something like that. Get back on track. Get back to the team we know you can be. For Xavier Edwards, you're right there, batting title. That's something to play for. Yeah, you're playing for wins, but also that's an incentive. You're doing your job, and you can get recognized at the end of the season. That's always a fun storyline. Jacob Marcy, one of the best starts to a major league career in all of history. I want to close this episode by reading this tweet I saw from Marlins Communications. If I can pull it up here. It was about Jacob Marcy. All right, here we go. Jacob Marcy is the 5th player in Major League Baseball since 1900 to record at least 14 extra base hits, including 2 or more triples in their first 19 career games, joining Chris Dickerson from 2008, Greg Jeffries, 1987-1988, George C. Scott, 1966, and Mandy Brooks, 1925. Anytime that your name is mentioned among years such as 1900, 1925 in a positive manner, then you're creating histories. You're creating history. You're in the history books for a reason. Jacob Marcy has been an absolute extra base machine. He's an everyday player from this point forward. We get that. The sky's the limit for him. I believe he's a star. The Marlins have another player that you should be tuned in to watch every single day. Even if this team loses games, see what Marcy does, because usually it's going to be special. That's going to do it for today's edition of Locked On Marlins. And until next time, guys, stay safe, stay locked on, and let's go fish.